Welcome to Crafty Sourcer. If you're looking for a raw, unfiltered podcast on all things sourcing in APAC, you've come to the right place. Grab a coffee or wine and join your host and other guests as we dive deep into the complex and ever-evolving world of sourcing, keeping you informed on insights, tools, and even at times, a healthy sourcing debate or two. Now, here's your host, Denise Pereira from Kaleidosource. Settle in and let's get crafty.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Crafty Sourcer podcast. Now, last week we had Srinivasa Raju on and we spoke about making automation your friend and then obviously using some of those tools to automate repeated tasks. This week we are staying local in terms of, we were virtually in India last week. We still are there. And I have the honor to speak to Akberali Engineer, who is the Global Sourcing Center of Excellence Lead for ThoughtWorks. Today, we're going to be talking about setting up a sourcing team, talent intelligence using LinkedIn, outreach and engagement to a global talent pool. Now, first of all, welcome, Akberali. I am so honored to have you here. We've been in touch for over a year now. So first of all, welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for saying yes.
Thanks, Denise. Excited to be a part of this Crafty Sourcer podcast. I think, it's really great to have a forum where we can, speak out, share knowledge, share information. I think learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Connecting with you, I think a year ago was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you remember this, Akbar. I think you and I actually, when we first spoke, I had mentioned this to you. You had given a talk at Sosu Lead. And your talk and Hassana Rad's talk were two talks that still stick with me today. And I was really taken away by your talk specifically because you spoke about setting up a sourcing function and the way you structured that talk was fantastic. And why that resonated a lot with myself was I was actually about to start my own journey at Tory, where I was going to be building a sourcing function. So your talk was so instrumental in giving me some basic and decent fundamentals to start with on what I need to be thinking about, what are some of the basic things, what may work, what may not work. So that really resonated with me. And I think bringing you onto the podcast, I think is going to be really eye-opening for all the listeners, and they will see why in the next half an hour as well. So first of all, we always start with asking our guests, to give a quick intro. So Akbar, tell everyone who is Akberali and how did you fall in love with sourcing?
You can call me Akbar. Akberali Engineer might be a little too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started off, like I think most of us start off in India in recruiting either from an RPO,
Hmm.
which is an outsourcing process, or you do an MBA and you somehow stumble into an internship
Hmm.
as an HR, and then you move into recruitment. So
Hmm.
I was from the outsourcing background. I got into recruiting from there. Um, Learned my booleans. Learned about global sort recruiting sourcing.
Mm.
These were two words that were very new to me.
Mm.
And They started off with the US market. Hire PMs, BAs. I think the tech world was very new.
Mm.
All I knew was just keywords and and the Boolean logic.
Yeah.
And then I think moved into Capgemini. This was at iPlace, which was an IPO, RPO. Then moved into Capgemini, where I learned about the domestic, like in India we call it domestic market,
Hmm.
as hiring in India. And I think that was something which was evolving. There was a very good sourcing culture at
Mm.
Capgemini,
Hmm.
with some really great people who were building that sourcing mindset. I think in India you have um, that entire Capgemini sourcing team, which was actually started off in I think way back 2004,
Mm.
2005,
Mm.
and they were one of the pioneers in building out this sourcing culture. So learning from them, learning literally from the best in the industry that were
Mm.
pushing passive sourcing boundaries. They were building sourcing competitions. They were doing everything to push out recruiters to think beyond just Naukri, which is a job board in
Yeah.
India, and
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was just there, and I think we were all into scraping and whatnot.
Mm.
Trying everything out. So yeah, and then came ThoughtWorks. Of course, I was in for a short stint. I went to ZS Associates in between, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but then I think ThoughtWorks was that opportunity which every sourcer dreams of, or
Mm-hmm.
every recruiter probably dreams of as well. That you get to build something. You get to
Absolutely.
build a team. You get to build a culture. You get to build, you know, and innovate. So I think it was Natalie who I spoke to.
Yes.
uh, Amazing person. She's wonderful, a great sourcer. I think I learned so much from her about sourcing, and she had this vision of building out, this sourcing function at ThoughtWorks, and she kind of sold me into it. And she's like, we want to build this global sourcing team, and you can come in and share your ideas. So that is where my entire passion towards I would say building a sourcing function, understanding, and agile was something new to me as well,
Mm.
but very very old to ThoughtWorks as an organization, given they were one of the pioneers in the agile manifesto back in
Mm.
99. So this entire thing, like, somehow, like, it just felt like as if it was a puzzle, like, fitting in together. And I'm like, okay, agile is new, but this sounds so interesting. I think
Mm-hmm.
recruiters never use the word agile in I mean, they
No.
would use it to search. And in the interview, when I was asked, like, okay, what is agile, and I'm like, yeah, it's a methodology. I've heard agile being used by agile coaches
Yes.
and project managers, maybe a few BAs, but no, I don't know what agile is.
Hmm.
And that is where I think at ThoughtWorks I learned all of these things. I learned how to embrace technology, how to embrace
Hmm.
methodologies, and that mindset, the agile
Hmm.
mindset.
Hmm.
And I think that just felt in with you know just right in place with the culture that I wanted to build in the team, versus
Yeah. Amazing.
versus a process that supports that culture. So agile was that kind of the process, you can say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the culture I wanted to build is just like kind of, yeah, fell in place. So talent intelligence, I think, just came in with more responsibilities. I had to pick that up.
Hmm.
So that is something which I'm quite curious, and I'm
Yes.
still trying to think more about, because I think sourcing is there already. Now it's about scaling the team, and it's now about more getting more out of the sourcing team,
Yeah.
and getting more impact onto the global recruiting teams.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, so so yeah, I mean, talent intelligence is definitely something that keeps me up right now uh, for a very long time, given
Yeah.
it's so complex, and there is, I don't see any tool out there that can really solve. LinkedIn uh is nowhere close.
Toby Culshaw is actually someone, I don't know if you're connected to
Yeah,
him,
I'm
but
in touch with him. Yeah,
yeah, but he's been running this show for a very, very long time, and it's an area that I would love to get more involved in and a lot more familiar with at the same time. And Akbar, with your, I mean, obviously sourcing means different things to different people.
yeah.
What does it mean to you personally when you look at it, when you put your sourcing hat on, and you built some phenomenal, you've built a phenomenal function at ThoughtWorks. But just in general, what does sourcing specifically mean to you, though?
So sourcing is primarily, I think it has evolved a lot
Mm, absolutely.
from just being a back end uh, function,
Mm-hmm.
to more of a front end funnel in the sales in the recruiting sales funnel.
Yes.
Right. So I think that is where it has evolved to,
Mm,
and I feel like I'm right there.
mm,
The team's right there. Uh, but yeah, uh, from an impact, I feel sourcing is something which it's not just getting the candidates into the pipeline,
mm,
but uh, sourcing is something that gives a lot of recruiting functions, talent acquisition functions, and HR functions. I think as an overall,
yes.
it gives it uh, the market in understanding, the market
Mm-hmm.
intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
um, right? And I don't mean just from a sourcing function kind of a viewpoint, but also from a
Mm,
recruiter who is extremely good at sourcing.
exactly.
Right. So it's a fundamental skill set which,
Mm,
due to job postings, you can say that recruiters lost it,
mm,
due to the ease of having candidates just in flow into your pipeline without you
mm,
doing literally anything.
mm.
And I think that ease of it has lost that skill set in the middle.
Yeah.
But I see it coming back. I think it's coming back really strong. Sourcing as a skill set is now being identified. Recruiters in India, I think globally, reach out to me and they're like, okay, how do I improve myself in sourcing? And I'm like,
Yeah.
all you got to do is do it every day. That's it.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you're not sourcing, then you're not adding a lot of value, because you wouldn't understand the market.
Hmm.
You wouldn't understand the value of your a talent pool.
Hmm.
You wouldn't understand the value of a candidate in that market. And
Yeah.
it has so many areas that I feel you we grow into, and it teaches us a lot about how we can impact recruiting. Whether
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if you're finding a developer who has multiple skill sets. So say your hiring partner is coming and telling you, I want these 10 things, which I
Mm-hmm.
think every hiring partner tells
Yeah.
and in a recruiter, right? um, but I think if you have the sourcing acumen, if you have the sourcing mindset, then you are able to break that down. and
Absolutely.
and I think with years and years of experience, you develop that. Oh, okay, finding a Java developer or someone with Java in Melbourne versus finding a React
Hmm.
in Brisbane, like,
Hmm.
or in Hyderabad, like, how does it look like?
Hmm.
You just develop more and more acumen, and I think you are becoming more of a global talent acquisition
Mm-hmm.
professional,
Mm-hmm.
just with a sourcing mindset, just with a source, with that ability to think beyond. So that is where sourcing, I think, is what means to me right now,
Yeah.
and kind of something that I'm advocating
Yeah.
highly for, whether it's for a sourcer, or whether it's with a recruiter or
Yeah.
talent acquisition, or I think titles and designations can change, but I think the mindset is super important now.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you said it's evolved, because you're absolutely right. Sourcing has evolved from, let's say, when you started actually doing it to what it is now. And I believe, like, traditionally, when you look at sourcing, people come from a research background, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at sourcing now, I feel like there's so many different facets to sourcing. You can either be a very tech savvy sourcer, or you can be more of a functional sourcer, someone who enjoys more of the other aspects of sourcing, whether that's outreach or the candidate pipeline management aspect. Some people are good at both. One is the tech side of it, one is the search, finding, engaging, and then obviously the nurturing aspect of it. I feel like that has evolved so much, where people can actually pick and choose what kind of sourcer they want to be. It's not just about finding the talent. I think what's
Yeah.
become more important is how to keep them engaged. When you look at
Yeah.
what the sort of market is now at the moment, people have more choices, even though it's a company market at the moment, at least
Yeah.
in Australia, versus a candidate market. But I still feel it's a candidate market to a large extent, where engineers, as an example, they don't even go out and actively look. They already have something lined up before they go. They have their networks that they can go to. So I just feel like there's so many different facets that we can tap into within sourcing.
Yeah, I mean, we have broken down at ThoughtWorks, we have broken down our sourcing attributes,
Mm,
all right, and I think that's quite helpful to, I mean, just the part where you touched upon, like, pipeline management and all of
mm,
that, and pipeline management is one of our attributes. So we've got,
mm,
I can share it actually. It's so we've got sourcing methods, which is more about you know being able to create sourcing strategies.
mm.
And I mean, like, from our end, from our perspective, it'll be more like search strategies, what
Amazing.
markets, tech understanding, all of that kind of
Hmm.
comes under sourcing methods. Then we
Mm.
have sourcing acumen, which I've used the word before, and I
Yes.
think that's a word which that's more of the mindset. That is more about you being an advocate when you're talking to a recruiter, when you're
Mm,
talking to a hiring partner, when you're talking to interviewers, when you are analyzing data. You put on a sourcing, you use your sourcing acumen, that,
mm,
okay, this doesn't look good, or
mm,
this looks amazing. And I
mm.
think that comes from acumen. Then
Absolutely.
we've got outreach and marketing. So we don't have outreach and engagement, we got outreach
Mm,
and marketing, because
mm,
we feel like outreach is more of a marketing
mm,
um, aspect, given we are using social media tools like LinkedIn. Now, on LinkedIn, if you get, say, an ad from some supermarket,
mhm.
like, you are going to be like, okay, wait, why is this ad coming here? Why am I
Yeah.
getting some shoe brand like sending me shoes on LinkedIn, right? So we
Yeah.
it's not the target audience, so hence. And I think I remember my wife worked in marketing, so I speak to her quite regularly, and she told me she had done LinkedIn was showing case studies, they were selling their entire marketing thing, and she got a case study where there was a car brand that was selling cars on LinkedIn because people
On
were
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn, yes, through
Wow.
ads, and it didn't work out. I mean, I don't see those car ads anymore. I mean, I'm talking like 5 6 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, I think the target audience is very important. So with being a sourcer or a recruiter, it's important you understand what you're targeting and
Mm-hmm.
where you're targeting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so. These are three attributes, and then along that we've got market intelligence, we've got
Yeah.
pipeline management, and we have multiple attributes that I feel sources can develop.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, some sources want to do sourcing methods more than pipeline
Mm-hmm.
management.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, what, it's okay. I don't want to manage the pipeline. I think
Yeah.
you can have a more senior person doing that for me.
Exactly.
I'm gonna focus on like finding candidates
Mm-hmm.
and getting you the hires that
Mm-hmm.
you need.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting take. And I like the fact that you've broken this down because I remember this is something you also covered at Sourcing Lead as well. So
Okay.
on that, we're actually going to jump into how you've actually set up and how you're sort of leading ThoughtWorks' sourcing center of excellence. So are you happy to just sort of very quickly talk us through,
hmm
how did you set that up and what worked and what didn't, and what were some of the learnings that came out of that?
Yeah. So I think yeah, I can literally give you a timeline and an evolution process, like literally from yeah. So uh, we started off as a global sourcing team,
Mm,
which is still called the global sourcing team, but we were more of a distributed global sourcing team
mm-hmm,
based out of 5 countries. I think
mm-hmm,
UK, US, Brazil, India, and I think Spain.
mm-hmm.
Uh, this is when I think Brexit was just going to happen. So,
Yeah.
so maybe UK was a part of EU or not, I don't know. But yeah, there were these 5 countries that we thought like we'd have these nice set of sources and kind of build that out. But I think there was a challenge where recruit sources were getting a lot more isolated in the process.
Yeah.
They were they were becoming recruiters rather than influencing recruiters to do sourcing, or the other way around, the recruiters would influence sources to become, because they were just one sourcer. And I think that became a little hard, and that's when I was brought in by Natalie
Mm-hmm.
to kind of build out a centralized sourcing function so that
Amazing.
we are, yeah, we've got more opportunity to learn, grow, share knowledge, because
Mm,
I think that sharing knowledge, working in different time zones, working yeah, sharing feedback, adapting to change, these were
mm,
some challenges which I think were a, a problem, I would say, with a global sourcing
mm,
function,
mm.
but a distributed global sourcing function. But with a centralized sourcing function, I think we kind of mitigated all of those things.
Yeah.
And maybe it was something that we could have worked around, we could
Mm,
have, but I guess y- it's like, um, you start out something like, yeah, this is, I know this works, but you don't
mm,
have the setup to support that.
mm, mm,
And I think we at ThoughtWorks, we were going through a recruiting revolution, uh where we were changing recruiting processes in ThoughtWorks and
mm,
streamlining recruiting processes. So with a global distributed team, we were not able to kind of support, I mean, I think
right.
the global sourcing, the distributed sourcing team was not able to kind of add that value and impact,
Mm,
because the teams were not set up, the recruiting teams were not set up
yeah. So did
properly.
you all break that down regionally then, or?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what we started doing. We started having a global recruiting team,
Mm-hmm.
which was a sourcing team,
Mm-hmm.
and we started having country specific uh, recruiting teams. So
Mm-hmm.
what what we moved into was this global recruiting team will be a centralized team in one country. They can be based out of different regions, that's a different thing, but they will be working together to solve all the country's problems.
Wow.
So in the global recruiting team, we had a project management team, we have a sourcing team, we got a leadership team that kind of supports and helps us drive initiatives. um, so all of this together kind of started streamlining
Mm,
regional country specific processes, and I think that helped this sourcing team to kind of flourish more. So that's when I was brought in, And I think what we do at ThoughtWorks is front end, pipeline generation.
Right.
So reaching out to a global talent pool, engaging with
Yeah.
them, and getting recruiters that initial recruiter screen. Basically, our goal is to make sure that the recruiters are doing what they're supposed to do, is to recruiter screens. They're
Yeah.
supposed to speak to candidates regularly. And when initially we didn't have that. When we looked at our individual recruiter
Hmm.
records, like, okay, how many phone screens are there, how many recruiter
Hmm.
screens
Hmm.
are there, it was quite low. So the sourcing team was kind of brought in to increase that. So we had a very clear objective that, okay,
Hmm.
this is one objective we need to kind of go about with. And second is start getting that pipeline that the recruiters need. Um, and and I think with agile, I think we were able to solve most of our problems. So we kind of got in a process where we had daily stand-ups, we had
Amazing.
sprint reviews, we had a sprint plan. It
How often
started
were your sprints run?
it started off with 4 weeks
Okay.
5 years ago, but now it's 1 week a sprint plan.
Whoa. Okay. That's
Because
pretty good.
recruiting is like, it changes.
Hmm.
um, the adaptability to run a sprint for
Hmm.
4 weeks can get hard, can get difficult, because you are not able to push through that. Um so so yeah, 1 week sprint plans is what we run right now. We've got sprint reviews every end of the week. uh, we all get together, we share information, we share knowledge uh, of what the challenges that we faced in the week, and we try to make our next sprint better.
Yep.
um um but yeah, I mean, this is what I kind of work around in
Excuse me.
ThoughtWorks.
This is super interesting. So you said that y'all are like the front facing, doing
Yeah,
all the reach outs, etc. So is this just for pipeline management and nurturing of that, or is it also including active requisitions that y'all are working on?
it
Or
is
it's a
only active,
combination of both?
not nurturing. So we
Okay.
nurturing is something we're starting now.
Hmm.
We just recently invested in a tool for pipeline for nurturing. I would say
Hmm.
it was called nurturing or reactivating. We called it
Mm-hmm.
multiple things,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we've recently invested in a tool that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Automating outreach,
Mm-hmm.
personalization, and all of that, I
Mm-hmm.
think, is something
Mm-hmm.
which we've recently started. But it was
Yeah.
always active pipeline. It was always
Wow.
active requisitions that you work. So we we build a way where we connect with every single recruiter, or more than recruiters. I think we connect with more leads or heads in the country, and we kind of plan the week with them. That, okay, tell us what's your next week's work
Right.
like.
Okay.
And every week we keep changing. Or there are some sprints, of course, there's a role which we worked 3 weeks ago is still in the sprint plan.
Hmm.
Sometimes you gotta pause, sometimes you gotta do all of those things. A sprint is not as perfect as a dev a develop an SDLC sprint plan would look like.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think recruiting is different. It's not like developing a software. It's You sometimes have one candidate in pipeline that just runs through.
Yeah.
And if you're building front end, or you're getting more candidates into the pipeline, you have to pause at some point, because you're just gonna overburden the recruiter. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
That's another interesting point because you like you said you'll have excuse me, like you'll have to be talking to the heads
yeah,
quite a lot, which means that the workforce planning has to be done right,
yes, yes,
and not a lot of companies get that right, which is why hiring plans are a mess.
that is true. Yeah, I mean, I think at ThoughtWorks we faced uh, a challenge recently around it,
Excuse me.
but yeah, I think hiring has been quite so from a recruiting perspective, I think we are pretty much optimized, I would say, and efficient.
Hmm.
I think at ThoughtWorks, the recruiting function is looked at as a function which is extremely efficient and effective.
Hmm.
So when we speak to our heads or leads in the country, we have now started kind of we talk with data. So we have reports and dashboards that are
Hmm.
that exist. We have a current pipeline reporting tool as well. um, so we use all of these tools to make decisions and then have
Mm,
conversations. So if the head of recruiting is like, oh yeah, we've got to hire like 5 developers here, and we're
mm,
like, oh yeah, you already have like, you know, 13 candidates that is sitting, right at the end of the stage,
mm, mm,
end of almost close to an offer. You're good here. You don't need more pipeline. So sometimes I feel like, heads and leads, they're always like, oh yeah, get me more, get me more, get me more. So from a sourcing perspective, this is another way that I feel sourcers should be looking at things, is to advise, because
absolutely.
they understand, we are literally going into every single candidate and we are seeing their interview statuses, because
Mm,
besides sourcing and outreach, the other very important thing we do is we manage the pipeline.
mm-hmm,
So we understand every single area of it, and then we are like, yeah, you've got like 10 candidates in an office interview, or a face to face,
mm,
and I think that should, yeah, I mean, and we look at past conversions, so we got a conversion dashboard as well,
yeah, yeah.
from a data perspective, so we know exactly, oh yeah, this role, every 10 candidates in office interview, you make 5 hires. So
Mm,
your ratio to your 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 ratio is 2:1, or your ratio is 3:1 in office interview. So you've got 12
amazing.
candidates, and I think that's good enough. I mean, if you want some backup, you can build some pipeline for you, but
Mm.
I think this is good enough for you.
And the
um
business is obviously loving all of that talent intelligence
yep.
being fed back to them. And do you all do that quite often, or is this on need basis pretty much?
So we've built out a dashboard,
Mm,
that gives a basic talent pool analytics. Okay, it
amazing.
it 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 provides you, yeah, okay, so for a Java skill set, what's the number like,
Mm,
what's the diversity in, in that talent, in that region like.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So it gives you the basic areas, of course, that that a recruiter or a sourcer needs when they're speaking to the business.
mm,
It gives them the basic information, like, no hiring partner is going to come in and be like, oh yeah, get me this skill set, and you'll be like, wait a
exactly.
second, I don't think so. This is possible because, one, the talent insights report does not say that,
Mm,
and second, LinkedIn. So recruiters are quite effective with using LinkedIn Recruiter. Be like, hold on,
mm,
pop, 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 pop. I'll
mm,
type that in. Be like, you've got 5 people,
mm,
and you want to make 5 hires. No, that's not
yeah.
possible. So I think that acumen is definitely now something which recruiters and sources at ThoughtWorks use very effectively.
Mm,
And we have been building trainings out. We have been building dashboards out to support that, so that recruiters become more effective when a hiring partner is like, yeah, get me someone with Scala and Python together,
nice.
and that's when, they have the acumen to be like, no,
To be like,
wait a
yeah.
second, I think this is going to be a little harder than, and we've hired, and our Scala conversion ratios are really bad.
Mm,
So, we look at all of these different data aspects, and I think we're training recruiter sources to start thinking
mm,
more from that end, and provide more insights to the business,
mm.
rather than, yeah, yeah,
It'd
let me
be
get you
outsourced.
five developers.
Yeah, yeah. Now, with the obviously, when you were brought in to set up the Center of Excellence, I'd imagine there would be like certain complexities that have come with it.
Yeah,
So, how do you and the team effectively engage with a global talent pool where you need to be pulling in people from different parts of the world or different regions, or how do you effectively engage with them, and then obviously make sure that there's just a consistency from end to end between the teams?
it's really hard. I mean, when we started off, it was super hard because,
Mm,
um, I think connecting with someone in Spain, Germany, Brazil, US, it was not something which, uh, a lot of sourcing teams globally do.
mm,
So when we went out and looked out for resources, we were yeah, we didn't have a lot, because such a function with such scale was not something which, I had seen before. So I think,
mhm,
from our end, I think we had to experiment a lot and fail most of the times. We just very very we were quite, I mean, and that was a good thing and a bad thing
mhm,
in a way as
mhm,
well. The good thing was that it helped us become more persistent, where where if we were not successful in doing something, we were very quick to identify the failure and be like, okay, let's not do this because this is not working out.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and I think the bad thing was that we had to try a lot,
yeah.
and we had to keep so this the kind of the agile process helped because every week we would identify, yeah, whether it's working or not working, and next week we would try something else
Mm,
or pick up something from the past and kind of build something new. So from an outreach perspective, yeah, reaching out to talent pools, I think the most essential thing is to be yourself
mm.
while you are outreaching to a candidate. And this I'm talking with I think we must have sent out over 500,000 messages
Whoa. Okay.
globally. We've sent out and yeah, we said about 25-30% response rates.
Mm-hmm,
So I think the matrix is super important that you look at when you're
mm-hmm,
messaging a global talent pool,
mm.
because there are biases. I wouldn't say that, and that's another bad thing is that sometimes you get some stupid responses from candidates, and
Yes.
and that's super hard to take in because yeah, they don't understand that, yeah, we are doing a job and
Mm,
and 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 and, and that's it.
mm.
There's nothing about a person who's outreaching being from India or Brazil or US. It's
Yeah.
about it's about that. So we get that um, a few times a year. We get that bad part, but I think the good thing is, yeah, people appreciate the effort that we take in when they get hired. We we see the joy. We celebrate every single candidate that moves to an
Mm,
offer stage, actually, because
mm.
yeah, hiring is a little later and not
Yeah.
dependent on us. So
Yeah.
we celebrate every single candidate that moves to the offer.
Amazing.
And I think, yeah, as I said, like, I think be yourself is super important. Making sure that, yeah, you are you understand, because I think every country has a different culture, every region has a different
Mm,
culture,
yeah.
and if you're doing global outreach, you need to be aware of that. You need
Mm,
to be aware.
mm-hmm.
I tell you, initially we have tried some really experimental things. We send out jokes to candidates, we send out poems to candidates, we send out um yeah a talent pooling, like, hey, we don't have a job opportunity, but we'd love to connect with you.
Mm,
All
mm,
of those things, and
mm-hmm,
we scraped off data from GitHub and send out emails to candidates, and we've tried multiple things,
mm.
and I think all of this was something that you have to do to learn. You would be surprised that the talent pool which was the hardest to get a response was infrastructure DevOps candidates in Germany, all right?
I'm
And
not surprised over there, to be honest.
right, and and you know what message has done the most amount of work? The highest response rate
Which one?
was a joke, a light bulb joke, got us like 40-50% response rate for infrastructure DevOps candidates in Germany.
In Germany?
But yeah, we couldn't
Well, they've got a
do it.
sense of humor. That.
They had a sense of humor. I think, yeah, infrastructure. They probably have a good sense of humor. So,
Yeah.
uh, but 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 that was not something that we could keep sending because we know,
Mm,
like, this is not effective. This is a good experiment. We sent out poems to candidates in Spain. That we got a little bit of a lashback on that as well from the business. They're like, hey,
yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
We're like, but candidates loved it. Like, I can get you like tons and tons of response where candidates are like, oh, you made my morning.
Mm,
I
mm.
wake up in the morning and I look at, usually you get in mails with, like, job
Yeah.
description and some
Yeah.
something, and this is a poem. So some people, and you would be surprised the amount of candidates from a diverse background responded to us to poem
Mm,
was
mm.
was way more, because I feel like we don't look at that as well, that, hey,
No.
are your messages inclusive to a diverse audience, or is it just like, yeah, you know job opportunity template and that's it?
Yeah. And sometimes
So
we get so bogged down in the details where we actually forget that personalization is key, but also who are your audience? One set of A/B testing may not work with another set.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So, yeah, from messaging to a global audience, I think these are some important aspects. And I think experimenting is important. You
Mm,
gotta experiment. You gotta try, but
mm,
but you can't get stuck to one template, I would say. I think
yeah.
job templates are of the past.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call them in mails or emails. I call them job templates. It's
Mm,
literally you are sending out a job template to a candidate, and that is only going to get you responses from people. that want to reply to job templates.
Hmm.
But the people who don't want to reply to job templates, who are like, yeah, come on, give me something more. Give me something more
Hmm.
that what you want to sell about your company and what do you like
Yeah.
about me. Those are candidates which
Yeah.
probably, we are not going to be able to target.
Yeah. And I think it's also about being not just creative, but also intentional.
Yeah.
Intentional is also very important because I remember when I was sending out sequences earlier this year, the response rates were not there the way it was last year. So then I did a bit of A/B testing where I did like a Jon Snow campaign, and I was like, oh, excuse me, send
Yeah.
out, this is the role, this is job description, send out in Jon Snow's voice. And I actually got some pretty good responses back, but I didn't send that to everybody. I sent it to people who had
Yeah.
actually mentioned they were Game of Thrones fans or anything related to Jon Snow. So you're right that A/B testing is super important to get you the response. Once you get a response, there's a lot more that you can do from there onwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the stepping stone, I would say,
exactly.
to what you
Exactly.
want to achieve.
Exactly. Um, Akbar, we have come to time, and I am so happy that we've had this conversation because, based on just what you've spoken about, not only just that, but what you've done at ThoughtWorks is fundamental. And
Yep.
I know Natalie's actually taken your name quite a few times because I had attended Balaj's leadership course last year, and
Oh,
Natalie was a guest on that seminar in that seminar as well. So look, thank you so much for once again giving so much of your time, sharing so much of your insights. I do know whoever's going to listen to this is going to be taking down some notes and possibly also messaging you to ask you for more information. So be ready for your LinkedIn profile views to go boom, just go off label.
no,
So
this is amazing. I think we can have this conversation for the next 12 hours.
yes,
And
I'm sure we could. And we could probably be talking about, so many different things that's right and that's wrong with sourcing and how we can
yeah,
improve it and get all creative and crafty with it. So yeah,
yeah. Thanks,
but
thanks, Denise, for having me. I think
you're more
this
than
is
welcome.
amazing.
Thank you, everyone, and stay crafty. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and we'll be back next week with another exciting episode. If you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, happy sourcing and stay crafty. Until next time.